people want to make sure they get a good solid understanding for, and we want to make sure we cover off those things today. We are going to be recording this webinar, so those of you that would like to rewatch it later on will have an opportunity to do so. You can certainly use the question and answer panel throughout the broadcast, as well as you can let us know if you're having any problems hearing. We'll try to move along, but we want to make sure that you have a good experience today as well as a good recording of it for future reference. And certainly we appreciate all those developers and supporters in the Untangle community for helping and making Untangle the best product it can be. On our agenda today, we'll be talking about what Untangle is and going through a little product comparison. We'll be going through a little bit more in-depth review of application control. We're not going to be going to a complete deep dive, but it'll be leaning towards that. And we'll give you a demonstration on blocking BitTorrent. We'll be also blocking YouTube as well as blocking Facebook using application control, and we'll be able to kind of show you how that works as we go through. And then we'll cover off some resources towards the end of the webinar today. The first thing we want to talk about a little bit more for those that are new users to Untangle or people that are not as familiar is what Untangle does. Typically, when you have a network, you are trying to do different things, as you can see from this list as I proceed through, and the different levels of adoption that people are actually able to get to have those things taken care of. A lot of people are even going towards the cloud to handle some of these different things. But as you can see, as things get more and more complex, your network gets pretty messy. And of course, we have new threats that come out and things that need to be handled, and a lot of times IT people can feel like they're the little guy that's on fire there, running around trying to get everything taken care of. Well, the way Untangle does things is we have all this stuff virtualized inside Untangle, and we allow you to have a need, and you can download different items that you need into Untangle from our online store, from different tools that we provide. And this allows you to use one unified device to manage a lot of different features that you need to worry about and or control on your network. And the other thing, too, that's beneficial with Untangle is that as new features come out or new threats, we're able to actually push those out to boxes and devices so that they can be updated without having to roll completely new hardware, and certainly can make you feel jubilant so that you don't have to mess around with the network mess that most people do have to manage. Untangle, as far as where you put us, you definitely have to have a dedicated piece of hardware to run Untangle. A lot of people like to virtualize it sometimes on VMware or other virtualization software. We allow you to run it that way, but we don't fully support it because we don't want to answer the questions about VMware and those types of things from the support side. But we definitely support Untangle in the iterations that are available. As far as installing Untangle, typically we're installed as a transparent bridge, which is the view on the left there. When somebody already has an existing router firewall, then you can put Untangle in line between the firewall and the next network switch, and it can do all the filtering and the controls that we offer in a bridge mode. It's usually the easiest way to deploy this as well, so that's why it's most popular. When your support contract, or if you have a network that has hardware that's not cutting mustard for you, you want to upgrade, then by all means you can take Untangle and move it from the firewall or the bridge mode, and you can push it up the stack so that it will be a router firewall for you. We have those functionalities and features available to you as well. As far as the difference between Untangle and most of the other competitors that we run up against is a lot of them are using something called proxy chaining. And as the data comes into a network, it basically has to become runnable on the run queue. And then you can see as we move forward with these things, it gives you additional buffer copies and context switches for each of the different proxy chains that it has to go through. And so as it becomes runnable on the run queue, you get an additional context switch. And so what that does is it actually slows down the response time and causes additional latency. This is just with 4 application proxies chained together. And you can see that it's on a 80 millisecond overhead as far as latency on a light load. And then if you go up to a heavy load or a moderate load, you're looking at an order of magnitude more on latency. The way Untangle does things, though, is we actually have a technology called virtual pipelining. And so what we do is we take a data stream and we make the data itself become runnable on the run queue by vectoring it to the layer 7. And what that does is it allows us to have the data be processed and scanned and controlled, but having a minimal amount of buffer copies and context switches of the data. And this is certainly easy to see when you compare it to the other way of doing things on the proxy chaining side. It gives you at least an 8x improvement. As far as the packages that Untangle offers, we have an Untangle platform that is included in our light package, and then we have our standard and premium functionalities. You can see and learn more about these individual items if you're not familiar with them on our website. Again, the one that's bolded, you can see we're going to be covering off on application control today. As far as application control goes, it leverages the network application visibility library from one of our Untangle OEM partners called Vineyard Networks, where we can perform deep packet and deep flow inspection of network traffic. So this allows the Untangle server to accurately identify thousands of today's common applications such as social networking, peer-to-peer, instant messaging, video streaming, file sharing, enterprise applications, 2.0, and a lot more. Most common applications, you can simply go to the list of the applications tab, check the box for block, and for anything you want to stop, and application control will then take care of the rest. If you need a higher degree of control, you can use the Rules tab to create custom rules, which target more complex traffic patterns. On the Status tab of the application control, and we'll jump into this when we actually do the demonstration, but the Status tab displays a summary of traffic and configuration information. So the traffic statistics section displays the total number of sessions that have been scanned, along with the number of those sessions that were allowed, flagged, and blocked. The application statistics section shows you the total number of applications that can be detected by the application, along with the number of those protocols that we flagged and or blocked. The rule statistics allows you to quickly see how many custom rules you have configured, as well as how many of those rules are active. The Applications tab is the primary and preferred way for using application control to manage network traffic. Simply find the application you want to target and use the block and flag checkboxes as appropriate. You can sort the list on any of the columns displayed, which should help in finding and managing the protocols you want to target. Simply check block to stop these applications or flag to allow them, but silently filing them as a violation on the reports. So you can use the different following definitions as far as the Applications tab organization is concerned. As you can see, the application, the first column, is the unique identifier for the application. The block basically means that the session will be dropped if it is UDP and reset if it is TCP. If you flag something, that will be flagged as a violation in the reports. And tar pit is kind of a special category as far as I'm concerned. It basically, the connection is kept open, but the data is silently dropped. So for TCP, this makes it appear to both the client and the server that the other party is receiving the data, but it is not responsive. For UDP, it is identical in behavior. The block except the connection is kept open, so the next packet will be dropped instead of recategorized as a new session. And I'll show you what that looks like in the demonstration using YouTube. It's kind of cool. The name is just the standard name for the application, and then the category is a fairly general and high-level category for the application. The productivity is important. It's the best, basically it's best thought of as an index value between 1 and 5 that rates the potential for each application to improve or increase the overall productivity of your network users. Assuming, of course, that listening to music and playing online games is not in their job description. So applications with a low productivity index, like Netflix, Hulu, Zynga games, those can be expected to have a negative impact on productivity, so we rate them higher. Items with a high value, or excuse me, a low value. Items with a high value, like Active Directory or network file systems, those can generally be reviewed as critical for maintaining or improving productivity. Conversely, risk is another index value, between 1 and 5, that rates the potential for each protocol or application to allow really nasty stuff on your network. The higher the risk index, the greater the chance of letting in something that could be dangerous or destructive. So low-risk items like Active Directory, Oracle, LDAP, those are generally no cause for concern, while applications rated with a high risk, like BitTorrent, Pandora, Usenet, those are generally, those increase the possibility you'll find yourself spending long nights deleting pirated software and cleaning up viruses and other exploits that find their way onto your infrastructure. The description, of course, provides a more detailed description for each application in the list. And in some cases, the description is much larger than will fit into the grid column. So you can click on any description to see a pop-up window with the full text displayed. As far as the rules go, if the traffic you need to manage can't be handled via the Applications tab, you can create custom rules that will allow you to analyze and control traffic based on much more complex patterns and conditions. For each session, the rules are only evaluated once after the classification engine has completed analysis of the traffic. The rules are then evaluated in order until the first match is found, at which point the configured action will be performed. If there are no matches, the session will be tagged as allowed, the traffic will flow unimpeded, and no further analysis of that traffic will occur. We will not be covering any examples of this today, as they need to be tuned for the goals you are trying to accomplish. If you need help with the support team, and they will be able to assist you for sure. As far as the event log goes, obviously the timestamp is the time and date that the event took place. The Active Directory, the username is based on Active Directory or a type of LDAP directory or radius server. The client IP address is pretty straightforward. The client port is also pretty straightforward. Same with the server port and IP port. The application, though, is the name of the detected protocol or application. So you'll see that on the actual event log here. And blocked is basically an indicator for blocked traffic. True means it was blocked. False means it wasn't. And the flag is the same, basically true and false as far as that nomenclature goes. The confidence is an interesting thing. The degree of confidence basically is it's the degree of confidence in the application or protocol classification. So a value of 50 was determined based on source and destination address and port information only. So a value of 100% indicates the classification was determined using deep packet and deep flow inspection. So that way you can kind of get an idea of when you're looking at event information, what confidence level it actually has. As far as the detail, which you don't see on this particular view, it's the classification details. So it's the field that will contain different information depending on the application that was detected. So FBook app equals the name of the Facebook application detected. HTTP is the content type detected. And then, of course, SSL is the host name for the SSL certificate. So there's plenty of things that we have going on as far as the product goes. A lot of people ask what the difference between application control lite and application control are. The application control lite, that runs similar or simple regular expression signatures against the data stream. If a signature matches the action is taken for that particular signature, like log or block. But you don't want to go through that list of signatures and block what you don't need, especially on the application control lite. Those signatures are not exact matches, and sometimes you can get false positives. So we definitely recommend that you kind of do that as you are able to tune it. The application control, though, that actually classifies the attributes in the metadata of packets to determine their type and operates on them once classified. false positives very rarely happen with the application control. So that's important to understand. And then finally, before we jump into the actual demonstration, another FAQ that we get a lot is, should I block or tarp it? And really, the block action resets the connection immediately. So it's pretty quick, straightforward, and the application will immediately know it was disconnected. Unfortunately, many applications are written to be very tolerant towards disconnects, and even try alternate connection methods if it detects it's getting blocked. In these cases, tarp it can be a better option, as it will leave the connection open but silently discard the data, making it much harder for the application to know it is being disconnected. The downside of this method is that it may make any false positives harder to troubleshoot. So obviously there's some give and take there. As far as the demonstration goes, let's jump over. Get my mouse to function properly here. And we'll go to the Untangle. So this is the local server that I've got configured with Untangle. For those of you new again to Untangle, we have the virtual server rack that you probably will become familiar with if you're not already. You've got your statistical information here at the top of the network, and you can just hover your mouse over to get more information about it, learning different things about your hard drive, your RAM, your CPU loads, and that type of thing. In addition, you have different modules, these application modules. And web filtering we've kind of covered off in a previous webinar. So you come down to application control and jump into the settings that we looked at before. You can see the familiar status screen that we talked about on the slide deck. And then the different applications. And what we'll do, first and foremost, is let's just show you blocking BitTorrent. So we come down to the B's, of course, because they're alphabetical at this point. And we've got BitTorrent here as the application name protocol chain. And then you can see the productivity score is 1 versus the risk score of being 5, so it's higher risk. And again, that's an example of clicking on the data so it gives you a full description if you can't read it all. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to tarp it. But before we show you the tarp it, I just want to show you I've got views open, which is a BitTorrent loader that you can do. And so we're going to find a torrent for, let's just do Debian. And it should look it up for us. And we've got a bunch of different torrents that we can download here. And what we'll see here is, see if I can find one that's actually got some data flowing. Delete that one. Okay. And then if we go to the Untangle, I may not have a good BitTorrent, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and show you anyway. Essentially, what will happen is by turning on the tar pit, in fact, the data won't download. So we'll try it again here. Let's try Ubuntu, see if we can find one there. You try to initialize, but it actually is not downloading at all. Okay, so that's basically what happens when you're doing the tarp-ing, and again, we're blocking BitTorrent specifically with the application control using tarp-it. Let's go to something else like YouTube, for example. And we'll show you that YouTube is actually working here. We've got a couple of guys that are just about to almost get eaten by some whales. And we'll go back while that's even running, and we'll go down to the very bottom of the page. and we're going to go ahead and target YouTube. And then what we're going to do is let that finish its save. We're going to go ahead and refresh. And you'll see as it refreshes, it's just going to kind of sit there. So you can see the difference between the tar pitting and the block screen. And this is where the connection seems like it's open, but it's not. It's just dropping the traffic. And at some point here, it'll actually time out for me. Let's just jump back real quick, open app control again, and show you the difference in behavior from the block versus tar pit. Again, we were tar pitting there. So if I come back and I say OK for the block, and let's go ahead and try to reload that. There we go. So you'll see that it actually brings up the YouTube page, but it actually blocks the YouTube player from being able to load, being able to play anything. So that's the difference between blocking the application for YouTube versus tar pitting it. Tar pitting it basically just kind of leaves the connection open, but it leaves it hanging there. A little bit, nothing's going to be working. Jump out of that. Now I have Facebook login, and we'll go to, and you can see we've got HTTPS turned on for that. Let me go ahead and app control because I basically turned it off. But we come down here to Facebook, and you'll see that we can come in, and I've got a lot of things flagged here, so we'll go ahead and just tar pit them. These are a lot of the Facebook properties. We'll hit OK. And then we'll try to log in. Should pick it up at some point here. Make sure the rule is enabled properly. I may have to even relaunch the tabs, so give me a second. Make sure we save that. Okay. Let's launch it again. This is a good example of some things working, and this being kind of an arms race as far as the applications that are trying to get through. Interestingly enough, I was able to get it to work earlier, and it's trying to send a request, but it's not actually resolving. One of the other options you have, in addition to app control, is being able to use web filter. So you can come here and go ahead and use the social networking block. save that. Make sure it's saved. Okay, so it's definitely on. And then we also have the web filter as an option or a tool. So again, you have application control. Typically, we'll block things using the protocols. And again, I was able to block this just earlier today. But when all else fails, you can use the web filter in addition to that. So. Let me jump back to the presentation. As far as the packages and the things that we covered off today, again, some of my demonstrations didn't work because I'm not as technical as I'd like to be, but we definitely have our support team that can help you make sure things are working and functioning properly. The package comparison that we covered off, you can see that on our website. You can also review a lot of the information I've given you as far as the Untangle application control on our wiki. And then, of course, we certainly encourage you to download a trial and try it out yourself. We definitely can help you in any case, answering questions you might have, and certainly getting you the information you might need. Again, this is a pretty short webinar today. So we just wanted to cover off a lot of the different ins and outs of application control. And depending on what type of product you're actually trying to block, you can certainly see as different things become more and more. A lot of people are trying to obfuscate or get around content filtering or even application filtering. And so, as we've seen today, you can see I had it working earlier and then it didn't. So it's one of those things where Untangle is always constantly working to make sure the product that we have is able to handle and take care of the needs that you have. Hopefully you had a good experience today, and certainly feel free to follow up with us on the number listed or even on the email, sales@untangle.com, and we can certainly help you. The best number to reach us there. We appreciate your time today, and hopefully you'll have a good rest of your day today.